welcome to the Disenfranchised Podcast. We're that podcast all about those franchises of one, those films that fancy themselves full-fledged franchises before falling flat on their face after the first film. I am your host, Stephen Foxworthy, and joining me, as always, the warlord of Mars himself, it's Tucker. Hey, Tucker.
Oh, hi, Stephen. How's it going?
It goes, my friend. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm good.
Just okay?
I'm feeling on the positive side of okay.
Okay. That counts for
so it's
something.
pretty good. It's a win.
Yeah.
It's a win. That's in the plus category.
I'm going to count it as one. Absolutely.
Yeah, dude.
Also joining us this week, first of all, I should mention that our other co-host, Brett Wright, said a weird word and got whisked away to another world. We wish him a speedy return.
I hate it when that happens.
He's always doing shit like that. But we are joined by a very special guest, one of our very good friends. He is our resident Godzilla scholar, but also our resident Barsoom historian. He is, you might remember him from our episode on 1998's Godzilla or our episode on 2016's Shin Godzilla. He is also one of the stars of Circle City Supernatural, aspiring filmmaker Samuel Dumas. Samuel, how are you doing?
What is going on? Man.
Also, I've known this man for most of his life.
Yeah, most of my life.
Yes. Sorry, Sammy. Go.
Accurate. Well, I was going to say that you gave him the title of Warlord of Mars.
Right.
And I was thinking to myself, oh crap, when it gets to me, this could go a lot of places. A lot of ways it could go.
I've got a lot of clout. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, you are a resident.
Will I be Princess of Mars? Will I be God of Mars?
I was
thinking about it.
Thuvia, Maid of Mars?
So.
Am I a chess man of Mars?
I didn't go that deep. Okay. But look, the movie Dune came out last week as of the release date of this episode.
Part 2, right?
Part 2, yeah. And we already covered the first Dune when Dune Part 1 came out with our friend Hope Lickner. Go back and check out that episode. I'll probably be dropping that on.
It's like 6 hours long.
It's one of our longest episodes ever because Hope doesn't do anything by half measures.
Engaging though, like it's engaging through the whole thing. Don't be intimidated by the length of it. There are definitely spots where you can stop and go have an intermission or something. It's worth listening to, is what I'm saying.
It's a fun episode. But we're like, what do we cover for the second one? Since we've already covered the first, well, we decided that we were going to go even further back in sci-fi history to a property that definitely influenced Frank Herbert, among many, many others, in his creation of Dune. It also influenced George Lucas in his Star Wars thing.
Influenced.
Yes. I mean, he straight up stole. It's fine. Look, they say good artists borrow, great artists steal.
I'm not against it.
I'm going to save that funny story for when we actually start talking about the movie. So it's another story about a stranger visiting a desert planet and being given a nickname by the native people of that world. And eventually becoming their leader and savior. This one is based on the Edgar Rice Burroughs novels from beginning in 1970. It is the 2012 film John Carter.
Ooh,
directed by 1917 was the first one, right?
Yeah.
I thought you said 1970.
He said 70.
No. Oh, did I?
70,
sorry.
Yeah.
You did.
I meant to say
That's
17.
Where I was like, what?
I've had alcohols. It's fine.
I forgive you.
I don't.
Directed by Andrew Stanton, written by Michael Chabon, and starring Taylor Kitsch, Lynn Collins, Samantha Morton, Willem Dafoe, Thomas Hayden Church, Mark Strong, Kieran Hines, Dominic West, James Purefoy, Bryan Cranston, and Mr. Meghan Trainor himself, Daryl Sabara. What a cast. What a picture.
You guys, there's so many people in this movie, and they just keep popping up. Like, there's a certain amount of time in this movie that you will not pass before there's another, like, somebody shows up and you're like, holy fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And even sometimes with the voice cast, you don't realize it until maybe a couple scenes in, and you're like, oh shit, that's the Sandman.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Solomon Kane.
Yeah, dude. That's fucking Green Goblin up there.
Yeah. That's
supposed to be a huge movie.
That's Steppenwolf.
That's that guy from The Wire and the other dude from Hap and Leonard.
Supposed to be a franchise.
It was.
And that dude from season 2 of True Detective.
Taylor
Which
Kitsch.
is funny about it to be a franchise, because one of my few gripes with this movie has to do with it's not setting itself up to be a franchise.
I mean, they do, and
it's a cliffhanger.
No,
because it ends
it.
with him
and
going back to Mars. But...
Well, and knowing what was to be for the sequel, like it makes a little more sense as a cliffhanger, because you don't know how long he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and apparently in the sequel they were going to make that very clear that it was like 10 years. 10 years.
He was 10 years
like a
on
decade
Earth.
At least.
I don't remember. Can't remember in the book. Yeah, because the issue with this is that this actually borrows a lot of elements from the other books, not just the first book.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot about that because it lifts up heavily, like plot points. In fact, the entire driving plot point is lifted from the later books. For good reason, for good measure, because the actual book itself is very scarce in plot.
Right. Well, Sam, I reached out to you because I know that you are a big fan of the writings of Mr. Edgar Rice Burroughs.
How do you know that? Has that come up in our friendship?
It has. I believe.
You've been wrong. Spying on him.
You're not Steven. Wrong. But when you reached out to me, I was like, word, okay.
It was one of those things. I think I was at your home for one of the many film things that I made with you, or maybe it was one of the podcast recordings that we did for Rule of Thirds. I can't recall, but I remember you being very excited that you had found a copy of one of the John Carter novels at a library sale or an estate sale or a yard sale, some kind of sale. You had managed to find like a vintage copy of a John Carter novel for a relatively good price.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I dig the artwork for all those.
That was kind of one of those things that I just squirreled away in the back of my head.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know if Joseph told you that, because he got me on the John Carter. He gave me, or he let me borrow. He had a bunch of the old, I think 70s or maybe the 90s. These old hardcover books. They got a bunch of Michael Whaling, I think, is the artist, and Frank Frazetta artwork on them. Actually, I don't think any actual Frank Frazetta. I think it's all Michael Whaling stuff. But I had borrowed all of those books from Joseph when I was a young kid and read through all of them, and that was my introduction to Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Okay. So how old were you at that point? Like, what was your history with this movie as well? Like,
I was in high school. Yeah, I was in high school the first time I read the books. And then I let Caleb...
Have you read all 12?
No, I actually have only read the first 5.
Okay.
And I don't remember this 5th one. I was looking at this the other day, because I know I've read 5 of them, but I don't actually remember Chessmen of Mars. Thuvia Made of Mars, the 4th one's my favorite of the 5 I read.
Okay.
The cover, the famous cover of her and like the big lion monster next to her and like sitting in the background. I half my life with laptops. That's the background. My computers wherever I go.
Right on.
I love that. Love the artwork. And then I've known about them trying to.
Your cat also loves John Carter.
Yes, my cat
has a lot to say. Like, so much.
A second.
Boy, just let the cat in, man. Just let him in.
Or out, as the case may be.
Or out, yeah. In or out. Wow, that kitty's straight up screaming.
Oh, my word.
My cat does that too. Just like yells at me, like with violence.
Our cats do that around dinner time. or what they perceive to be breakfast or dinner time. Yeah, they're just like,
Demanding little bastards.
Yeah. It's just like, you're not moving, so clearly you didn't hear me, so I will just do this over and over again until something happens.
What do you think Sammy's doing with that cat right now?
He's probably petting it and giving it snacks.
No, dude. He grabbed it by the scruff of the neck and booted him right outside.
No, he would never.
Get out of here.
No,
we're about to find out.
We are.
We're about to find out.
Well, we won't be hearing from him ever again.
Hey, yeah.
No.
Told you, Steven. We were speculating, and I said that you grabbed him by the scruff of his neck and booted him out the front door like a fucking Sunday morning comic strip.
Oh yeah, exactly like that.
I said you gave him pets and treats.
Never. I don't like my cats.
Yeah, dude. Fuck those cats. Fuck them cats.
No, they're actually really good cats, so don't fuck them. They're nice cats. I just don't like having cats in my house.
I can dig it.
They destroy everything. Yeah.
It's true.
You interrupt your podcast.
Look, you guys, do you see this? On my couch, you see this like beige thing on the side of my couch?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's supposed to be like a scratching area for the cat. You know, the only place that the cat does not scratch on my couch is that area.
Yeah, that tracks.
Every other part of the surface, I bought this thing. He's never fucking touched it. It's been like 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
He actively goes under it. He goes under it like a fucking asshole. Like, it's right. This is better. It's better.
What you need to do is cover your entire couch in that material, and he'll never scratch it again.
Man, fuck that cat.
Yeah.
Fuck that cat.
But here's the fundamental thing about cats. They are assholes.
Look at this. You see that? There's like stuffing coming out of the corner of my couch.
Here's the top of my partner's chair.
Son of a bitch. Fuck them cats.
Yeah.
Anyway, John Carter, Sammy, you have only read 5 of the books.
I've only read 5
is what I had heard.
Honestly, they're not that great. They're not.
Well, I mean,
okay.
Something doesn't have to be great for you to like it. Like,
no, it's his early work, you know? Edgar Rice Burroughs.
So you're not all hipster about Edgar Rice Burroughs?
No, because his early work is objectively inferior to his later work.
When do the eugenics come in?
He got skill. I don't know. I haven't gotten that far in my reading of his books.
So not in the first 5.
Well, there's always there's some villains that are all about eugenics. I mean, I guess
that's what I thought was weird.
Okay,
that seemed like the opposite message of this movie.
Yeah. So
I've never read any of
the main villains throughout the series have always been about eugenics. Even in the books, the villains are.
That's
eugenics.
So weird.
Was he a eugenicist?
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
And scientific racism.
Scientific racist, which is a term I did not know until I looked this movie up.
Really? Yeah. So I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not the best. I'm not, for any listeners out there who don't see me. I am a white, heterosexual, Christian leaning male. So any opinions I have on Edgar Rice Burroughs may be incorrect opinions I have on Edgar Rice Burroughs, because I understand that he is from a time period and he's a little bit racist. One of the reasons I like him, because I didn't think he was that racist.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I
show up in a lot of the work.
I mean, I appreciate a few Ayn Rand novels, but I think she's fucking cuckoo banana pants, and I don't agree with her. Right. I really like Night of January 16th. I think it's a really well put together play, and I also really dig Anthem. The 2 of her shorter books,
think she's
whereas with like the
writer.
Fountainhead and stuff, it's just she prattles on and on and on and on, and like there's something there, but like shut the fuck up. Like you could have cut like half that book out. But her smaller books, like I said, Anthem is really fantastic, and there's not a lot of like shitty takes in that one.
I'm a little sad that you like her stuff, but
I do. I don't like her. I think she's awful, but there are a few of her stories that I really dig.
Well, yeah. But for me, I guess Edgar Rice Burroughs is a racist in real life. It does not show through in his stories.
That's
Apparently,
what
I
I've
don't know.
heard.
Again, I guess I haven't
Tarzan
read
is
all of them.
pretty big on that, but yeah.
What, big on the racism? Because
Um,
that's the actual series I would
I'm
use to argue against his racism.
I'm reading from his Wikipedia entry. His views held that English nobles made up a particular heritable elite among Anglo-Saxons. Tarzan was meant to reflect this, with him being born to English nobles and then adopted by talking apes. They express eugenicists that views themselves, but Tarzan is permitted to live despite being deemed unfit in comparison, and grows up to surpass not only them but black Africans, whom Burroughs clearly presents as inherently inferior, even not wholly human.
So that's what's so funny.
Sammy, counterpoint, go.
So that's just, that's, yeah, and that's what I think is funny, is because the same thing with John Carter is actually still tied to John Carter as well, is because John Carter, the character, is a Confederate captain,
Yeah.
like fought for the racists. But when
Mm-hmm.
in the book series, and in the Tarzan series, they tend to unite all the races together
Right.
for peace, and they don't ever take down any one individual race unless that race itself believes they're superior and trying to eliminate everyone. So that's what they were trying. That's what they were setting up in like the movie, or no, what they should have been setting up in the movie, because like the main trilogy, the first 3 books of John Carter, like the main villains ultimately think that they're the superior race, and all races are inferior, and all races are actually descended from them. So they're trying to wipe everyone out. But with like Tarzan, I think it's funny because like, yeah, in the first book, if you look at it, sure, there are racist elements to it, because in the book Tarzan has only ever had experience with one African tribe, and that one particular African tribe wiped out his mom gorilla, so he hates all black people. And the only reason I'm excusing this is because when you get to the second book, when he decided that he's fed up with civilized life, he decides to take a hike across the entirety of the African continent, and that whole thing is like his live, laugh, love journey, in which he's like joining all these like different and he's going on all these adventures where he's learning about all these cultures and all these people and all these beliefs, and he's having this incredible experience of learning about other people. And then he teams up, and
That's
he's like,
so odd.
yeah, and then he comes across like African tribes that aren't the savage ones, I guess. And he's like, oh wow, I guess not all black people are that bad.
Are you saying that maybe Tarzan would have said that there are some of them are good?
Yeah.
They're good ones.
Maybe
He might have
those
said
ones
that.
are some of the good ones.
Right.
Yeah, some of them
So
are okay.
that's where I see Edgar Rice Burroughs is a definite product of his time. Not excusable, not 100% excusable, but just mostly a product of his time.
More ignorant, maybe. Just kind of ignorant.
Right.
Not maliciously racist. Just
because there's definitely
just
some
ignorant.
authors. There's definitely some authors from that time period that are maliciously racist, and I hate it.
Cough, Lovecraft, cough.
Got your Lovecrafts, yeah.
The dude who wrote the Maltese Falcon.
Dashiell Hammett?
Yeah, Dashiell Hammett. Fucking hate that guy. Ernest Hemingway.
What a butthole.
Don't worry, Sam. We'll have you back when we cover any of the Tarzan movies that we can cover on this podcast. And
yeah,
there are several.
I think I've only
Can we do George of the Jungle?
No. Well, actually, we probably could do George of the Jungle.
Yay!
Oh man, I'm not sure what Tarzan movie I've only seen like one. I've seen two Tarzan movies. That was the Disney one, which I like. And then there was this one with, is there a Skarsgård?
Legend of Tarzan from 2016.
With Samuel Jackson. That movie rocked.
Yeah,
is it really good?
I remember you.
Should we cover that?
It's on the list, dude.
I
love
thoroughly
like
enjoyed
forgotten movies that kick ass.
There's the Christopher Lambert one too. That's like called Greystoke.
I remember that, and there's also the
Is he Tarzan?
Does
he talk like this?
Probably.
Okay.
The Starship Troopers dude has one too.
Oh, Casper
Mario Cast. Why do I get him confused with Mario Van Peebles?
Oh,
it's the three names. They're very different.
But the middle name is the same.
There you go. That's what
Van.
it is. It's got to be it.
I think Casper Van Dien has one.
Bo Derek did one in the 80s too.
Gotta love that.
There's
Yeah.
this one that it's from the 70s in India. It's a Bollywood movie, and it's got some pretty good
Ooh.
tunes in it. That's a Tarzan.
We could probably do an entire month of just like Tarzan. We could do a Tarzan month if we
I'm so
wanted to,
glad you didn't
probably.
say Bollywood. Oh,
What do you
biggest
got
sigh
against
of relief
Bollywood?
ever. I don't want to do a
Tarz
month of it.
Tarzan and the Lost City from 1998. Oh, we could totally cover this.
That was Casper Van Dien, right?
Yeah, that's the Casper Van Dien one. Oh, I didn't even know
Uh,
this one
I
existed.
want to do
Oh,
the
we can
2016
absolutely
one
cover
though
this.
because you said it was rad. I
yeah,
want to see
it
a
was
rad
awesome.
movie. I
We
like
can
rad
do
movies.
look in 2025. I will
We'll do a
put
Tarzan month.
put a Tarzan theme month on the list,
Look,
And
in
Sammy,
the,
and
you're
we'll
there
have
for every episode. It's Sammy month.
oh
Is what
no.
it is.
Well,
we'll bring you back for whichever one you want to cover, Sam. How's that?
Or all of them. It's
well,
up to you.
I may definitely have to skip the what are we watching this week portion.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Back to the Edgar
back
Rice
to John
Burroughs.
Carter.
Look, I'm not excusing the
Yes.
bad problematic elements. I'm not saying it's not problematic. I'm just saying that from the writing purely, I always got the impression that he was not racist, that he like unconsciously even maybe understood progress.
I mean, he was, but it again, scientific racism, which means it's directly connected to eugenics.
Yeah.
Is my understanding.
Okay.
So do with that what you will.
Look, Sammy,
I mean,
I got you, dude. Look,
It makes sense.
I watch a lot of early 2000s teen comedies, so
Yeah.
look,
Oh, okay.
I get it. Stuff doesn't hold up. Like it does, but it doesn't. And like I still enjoy that stuff, even though I know it's not. But like I say, well, I was saying earlier before, it's a lot of that's just ignorance. Like you made jokes back then the way you made jokes because you didn't realize how much it upset some people, and then when you understood that, you didn't do that shit anymore. It's
right.
I feel like that applies in this situation because this was like in the early 1900s.
I would feel like that
people
too.
were idiots back then.
Yes,
idiots.
And I would feel like that too if like then I don't find out that the author or the artist also believes in the stupid stuff that I don't know.
Yeah, no, I can dig it. I'm saying humans are complicated, man.
Yeah, it's one of those things where his writings for me, like my policy is: does the writing match does the controversy make sense in the context of the art? If not, then that's how I can separate the artist from the art. So like for me, like Ender's Game with Orson Scott Card, his controversy does not match his art at all. I have so many like queer friends who are queer because of Ender's Game somehow. I don't know how that works, but it did. And like that's their favorite game, and that's fine. But the guy's a raging homophobic. Fantastic. He doesn't. A lot of his opinions don't come through. Same with other artists, and that's how I felt it was for Edgar Rice Burroughs, or that's how I feel it is for Edgar Rice Burroughs. Then is that what I read in his books does not indicate what he believes, apparently, unless it does.
That's fair,
and I'm that ignorant.
I don't think it. As far as I know, I've only seen John Carter. Like,
yeah, I've just really seen this movie, honestly, and know what I read from the Wikipedias. So,
well, I read the book and watched the movie yesterday. Look, they're easy books to read. They're like 200 pages.
Yeah,
they're very, very quick reads.
And a lot of them are in the public domain at this point, so you can probably pick them up pretty cheap, if not free, on an e-reader.
You could read them on your phone right now.
Yeah. I think I have a few of them actually on my e-reader. So
they're not complicated.
But yeah, did not read them for this podcast.
Me neither.
You should have
Tucker,
done research. Well,
what is? I researched the movie, the the development hell and production of this movie.
I actually started doing extra credit and started watching The Asylum of Princess of Mars.
Because there's actually, I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
Yeah, I started to watch it, but then something came up yesterday. I couldn't finish it. I actually do like that movie.
In 2009, The Asylum released a movie, Princess of Mars, starring Antonio Sabato Jr., former Calvin Klein model Antonio Sabato Jr., and former adult film star Tracy Lords. and let me just check my notes here. No one else you've heard of.
Hey, Tracy Lords, wasn't she in some Cronenberg movies?
Was she?
I think so.
No, John Waters. No.
Yes, she was in Crybaby.
Yes, she was.
And she was also in Zack and Miri Make a Porno.
Hey, yeah, she was in that. Yeah.
So when people say
underrated, not great,
helped them make a porno.
When people say, "Hey, let's get together and watch Grease," I always say, "No, let's watch Crybaby instead. It's better."
There you go.
It's like if Grease was a good movie, it would be Crybaby.
An appropriate answer, honestly.
Like if Grease went hard,
and was actually reflective of the time period in which it's allegedly takes place.
And also
I have
funny.
Fun with Grease.
I don't. That movie
I have fun with it.
Pisses me off.
I understand that. It was kind of
because it's like it's almost good.
With, so.
It's almost good.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's not actually good. But everyone thinks it is. But they're wrong. Everyone is wrong. It's not actually good. Crybaby is good.
Yeah.
That's the one everyone should watch.
That I can agree with.
Yeah.
So Tucker, what is your history with John Carter, the work of Edgar Rice Burroughs, etc.?
My history with Edgar Rice Burroughs is that I always get him mixed up with William S. Burroughs because they have the same last name. You see,
I always get him mixed up with Howard, the guy who did Conan,
the Duck.
Yeah, Robert E. Howard. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, he's also another one of my favorite pulp writers, who also actually is racist. I'm not going to excuse his racism, but I could argue some stuff, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
Yeah, Sam arguing for racism on this episode. Not a turn I saw us taking.
Look,
this is why we asked Sammy on. We need a scapegoat.
These gloriously awkward takes.
Yes, there's a certain nuance when it comes to navigating the swamp that is early 1900s fiction.
Yeah,
that's like
yeah.
Technically, every single thing is racist. Technically, but some things are less racist than others. I think
a lot of times you have to take in
all animals are equal. Some are more equal than others. That's basically what he's saying.
Sometimes you have to consider the intent too. Like we were saying before, there's some stuff that is very obviously maliciously racist, and then other stuff where you could kind of be like, that's just ignorance.
One of the the Philip
again, not excusing it, not condoning it, just saying.
What's it's a very famous pulp hero, Phil. Shit, what is his name?
McCracken?
No, I don't know. I have to look it up. He's a detective. Phil Marlowe. Yeah, Phil Marlowe. That's the character.
There you go.
Right? Yeah. So I'm a huge fan of the early short stories that those are based off. And one of the most fascinating things I thought about one of the early stories was that the detective, with his inner monologue, never referred to black people by the N-word. He just called them black people. At one point, jumps, tries to save, some guy from shooting up a black bar. But he only referred to them as the N-word outwardly when he was talking to cops and stuff. I always thought that was the goofiest thing to put into a book.
Well, it's like a code switch.
Yeah.
Right.
You know? Those people expect that kind of language from him, whether that's something that
and I think
he would normally say, it's something he'd have to drop into that conversation.
I imagine that would have gone over a lot of people's heads at that time, too. Because this came out during the time that he wouldn't have needed a code switch for the readers.
It does seem pretty subtle. That's kind of rad.
Yeah.
Raymond Chandler.
Racism, not rad. Insane. But
no.
But
that's driving my point, is that that's an example of someone being a victim of their time, but still weird. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
It's a weird place. It's a weird little line to sort of walk the tightrope on, you know? Right. I'm usually the one that has the awful takes. So thank you, Sammy, for taking this one for me.
We've all had our share of terrible takes on this show. Let's be very clear.
Oh, man.
Whew. Look, if you hate Edgar Rice
See if
Burroughs,
I ever mention Tu Wong Fu again.
Oh, jeez.
Golly.
You like that movie?
I love that movie, Sammy.
That movie's
it's
so
one of
boring.
My favorite comedies,
so
actually. No, you're crazy. It's wonderful.
It's so long.
I respect your opinion,
though. Litigate this.
Look, if someone,
that's all I know.
violently hates Edgar Rice Burroughs. I don't blame him for it. It's okay. You're allowed to hate it.
No, I had not
Sam
engaged
gives
with
you his
anything
permission.
I don't give a shit about Tarzan. I don't care about any of the old pulp stuff really. Like I get it, like that's cool that it existed, and I'm glad that it did because of what came after it, what was influenced by it, and what it continues to influence. But I never engaged with any of that. When the trailer came out, I was like, I don't know if this movie is going to be good or bad, but nobody's going to see this. Who the fuck is this for?
Mm-hmm.
That was also my thought. As a
and
fan, that
then,
was my thought.
and then several years later, which is now, I watched it for this podcast and I thought it was pretty fantastic. I had a really good time with it. So my only exposure to anything Edgar Rice Burroughs or John Carter is this film that I watched yesterday.
Right on.
Steven?
I am aware. I have been aware of Edgar Rice Burroughs and his properties for some time, but more just kind of in the cultural zeitgeist kind of way. Like I'm a big nerd, particularly within the last couple of years, um about public domain characters that exist in the public domain.
Well, yeah, you're an
Um,
Alan Quartermain guy.
right. If this podcast ever goes the way of the buffalo, I want to do a podcast where we just dig into different characters that have fallen into the public domain and different movies that have been made about those characters. Like,
I'm way into that.
that is the podcast I want to make if this one ever goes tits up. Not that I hope it does or expect it to, but that is the next one I want to do. And yes, I have already started researching that. But like, so I'm deeply into the public domain. I'm also very much into the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Alan Moore's comic book
Oh
series, League of
yeah.
Extraordinary Gentlemen,
How could
which
you
in the
not love
second
it?
volume features an appearance by John Carter. Um,
That's
and
right.
and I'm also a big fan, which I think I've mentioned on this podcast before, at least behind the paywall. I know I have, of Warren Ellis's Planetary. Not a fan of Warren Ellis as a human being. Really like Planetary though.
See,
And
5 minutes ago in this podcast.
yeah, but there is a character in there based on Tarzan, and I really dug like those analogs. And kind of seeing those, and though that those characters helped me dig in a little more to Tarzan and John Carter. And since a lot of that stuff is in the public domain, I have downloaded several of those stories onto my e-reader. Have I read them? No. But could I if I wanted to? Absolutely.
You'll get
Because
to it.
a lot of those are free on Amazon too. Like if you get on Amazon Prime and you have a Kindle, you can just download a bunch of those for free.
Sometimes you can find the ebooks for free too. I have a whole like
That's what I mean.
complete
Yeah. The
complete
ebooks.
well, not ebooks, I'm sorry, I meant audiobooks.
Oh, yeah.
I have a
Yeah.
complete set of Mark Twain audiobooks that
Oh,
I
nice.
just got for free because it's like public domain.
Yeah. Which means anyone could record those audiobooks and anyone could put them out.
And look, I've listened to a few. I listened to Connecticut Yankee, King Arthur's Court, and I don't fucking remember what else, but a couple more. And did I enjoyed the listen. So it's not
Yeah.
like just some dude in his basement doing an audiobook.
Absolutely. No, and so I'm really into that stuff, and I'll probably get to it someday. But then again, this movie came out, and I just looked at the trailer and just went, I don't understand. Like both of you, I don't understand what this is. I don't understand who this is for. I don't understand why this is being made now. I have a better sense of why it was being made at this moment. But at the time, I did not understand why it was being made. The short answer is Disney needed another action franchise to pick up where Pirates left off.
Dude,
Uh,
and there was so much going on behind the scenes though. Like, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but like
I have like 2 pages of notes about the development hell of this movie from the 30s on to like the production of this movie as well.
this could have been what they wanted it to be, and it
Mhm.
should have been. But
Mhm.
so many things outside of making the film,
Mhm.
everything else just went so horribly wrong.
It's
Just as
most
bad as it could possibly fucking go.
so much of it is at the executive level too. It's kind of infuriating.
It is. It's really frustrating, yeah. Especially a movie like this, which at the time was probably the most expensive film ever made.
Up there for sure. Yeah,
To
it's.
just shit its pants like that,
I think
and it's good too. Like, it didn't deserve that. It did not deserve that.
it's fine. Um,
It's good enough to not deserve that, at least, Steven.
sure.
I like it.
I found this movie very
I
boring.
liked it too. I had a really good time with this. Like, big fan, actually. Today I was lamenting that there will not be sequels when I was reading about what the sequels are going to be about. I was like, fuck, I'd really like to see that. And now I won't.
Never will. Well, before we get into all of that, because that's basically us setting the table for you.
Yeah, I feel like I'm burying the lead. I loved this movie. Sorry, plot?
No, we should talk plot.
Yes. No, yeah, absolutely.
We should get to the plot in 60 seconds, which is the part of the show where one of us, at either the behest of the D6 of Destiny or the Coin of Justice, recounts the plot in 60 seconds or less. However, when we do have a guest, we ask them if they would be willing to give the plot themselves, and Sam has graciously volunteered to
Oh,
give the
thank
plot
gosh.
in 60 seconds for 2012's John Carter. So I am going to go ahead and put 60 seconds on the clock.
Oh no!
And
You
Sam,
got this, Sammy. I believe in you.
I
I
know,
will
but
give you
it's
the 30.
midnight. I'm a father. I have work in the morning, and this is all happening so fast. And I came
You
unprepared.
can do this.
Look,
I believe in you.
You're bound to do better than Brett did on the Speed Racer episode. That's all I'm going
Look,
to say.
out of the three of us, you are the most qualified for this.
This is true.
So
I'll give
you
you
go
the
out
30.
there and you grab it by the ass, Sammy. You do it, man. I believe in you, man.
Okay.
You got this.
I will give you the 30 and 10-second warnings, and the time will start whenever you do.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Okay. So there's a guy. His name's John. He's in a cave. He gets teleported from that cave to Mars, and there he teams up with a tribe of aliens. And there's also a princess scientist, and they automatically fall in love because they're both attractive. Then she gets kidnapped and she's gonna be forced into a wedding, and he busts up that wedding. He gets teleported back to Earth.
30 seconds.
That I
Come on,
ran
man.
out. What else is there? This
Oh
is a pretty simple movie.
Framing device.
There's so much.
Device.
There's the guys that are like everywhere, and they have the medallions. And they're influencing everything. And there's the guy from The Wire who has the arm thing that can just kill people,
10
and he's gonna
seconds.
marry the lady. And then
Yeah,
there was
obviously
the
there's
other guy that
villains
looked
and
like
stuff.
that guy, but
Yeah.
and then there was the river, and then the dog was really cool.
All right,
And
that's time.
And
Well
Edgar Rice
done,
Burroughs is a
gentlemen.
character in this movie in the wraparound story.
Yeah, is apparently John Carter's nephew somehow. And he's played by Meghan Trainor's husband, aka Junie from the Spy Kids movies.
Dude, he's married
Everybody
to Meghan
loves
Trainor.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I love it. That's
fantastic.
It is.
That's a thing that happened, and now you're all aware of it.
Awesome.
Whether you wanted to be or
Yeah,
not.
no, there was. Yeah, I forgot some of the small details, but there wasn't. That's all it was. He teams up with the tribe, and then there's a princess, and then she is being forced to marry. So he's got to.
But then there's the whole like character arc of like in the beginning he doesn't give a shit about anything, he's extreme nihilist, and then like by the end he remembers that he's the kind of man who will fight for a cause and shit. Like there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie. You guys didn't pick that up?
No, I did.
Dude, I was struggling to stay awake when I watched this last night. I'm not gonna lie.
That's too bad.
I'll
You should have
talk
had
about-
an evening coffee.
And I'll actually talk about that because I read the book, as I mentioned, literally right before I started watching the movie to get caught up.
Mm-hmm.
And the characterization is probably the biggest change they made, is who John Carter is in the book versus who he is in the movie.
For better or
Go
for
ahead.
worse,
Let's
would
go
you
ahead and get
say?
into that now. Like, what are some of the, because you're the only one of us that's read the book.
You're the guy.
Right.
You're the
So,
expert.
That's
and
why you're
okay,
here.
so my official stance on this movie is actually a pretty good movie. I like it. It
I've heard
follows.
it's
dope,
fairly
dude.
faithful, honestly.
Straight up
It
dope.
really is. Like, the changes they made to make sense to an audience, because they were
I'm that audience because I've never read the book, and
right.
I
So
was
the
eating it up.
whole marriage, the whole forced marriage, that there's a 28 chapter book. The whole forced marriage, that country, that Zongdanga or whatever, country was not mentioned. That city was not mentioned at all in the entire book until the last 3 chapters. And that whole plot
Oh
point
God.
of the forced marriage happens in the last 3 chapters of the book.
That's
so
wild.
obviously,
Yeah.
instead of just like throwing that in there in the movie, they decided to bring it back. And then they borrowed elements with the guys that teleported everywhere. They borrowed elements from the future books to create an overarching story to try to help set up for a sequel. So those are changes that I appreciate that they made.
Well, and that's a heavy task, honestly. Adapting this series of books that were released between like the late 2010s the late 1910s and the late 1940s.
Yeah.
I think the last book came
and then
out
you're trying
in
to
64, and it was written by someone other than Burroughs, if I'm not mistaken.
you're trying to make this for a modern audience,
right?
Like I said, I haven't read the books, but to me, the way I see this, it works. It works for me in a modern context.
It does, and I think that there's an unsung, like, people whose job is to adapt books get shit on, because to adapt a book, there is an art in itself to do that successfully. And I think like a huge thing, a lot of people hate me for this, but a great example of someone who did a pretty good job of adapting hard material is Zack Snyder with The Watchmen. I know.
I agree with you, Sammy. No, I completely agree with you.
Right up to the point where this is the entire point of the book. I agree.
Look, and I think Sammy will agree with me here. I don't think Zack Snyder does not understand the point of the book. I think that he needed to make a movie that was going to make sense to everybody.
Right.
And that's kind of his thing. For better or for worse, is that he tries to make movies for everybody, that anybody can understand, that nobody's going to be lost in.
Right.
And though I don't like the ending of Zack Snyder's Watchmen, I respect that film and I love the rest of that film because I get why he had to make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just
that makes sense to me.
Ending, though. Like I say that, I mean, go back and listen to our episode on Watchmen. I'm not going to relitigate all that right here.
Right.
We did an entire episode with our buddy Garrick Hardy on that. Go listen to that.
Right. But that's what I was saying, though, is that to do that, there is a skill. There, like, not everything can be holes, which is the most perfect adaptation, because nothing's changed. From the movie, from the book to the movie, is 100%. Everything you read in the book happens in the movie. Nothing extra, nothing less.
Or No Country for Old Men, another good example of that.
I never read the book. Is that?
Yeah, but yeah.
Is it?
It's pretty close.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty close.
Cool. But yeah.
I'd say about 85%.
That's not bad. I think Jurassic Park is a great example of adapting material and reinterpreting it for a different audience.
Right.
Because, adapting it for a different format. Yeah.
The plot is actually still the same, and most of the beats are still the same, but it is a way different. Like, thematically, it's a different.
Yeah, beast. And who lives and who dies are completely different.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the same thing with stuff like, I'm always bringing up the RoboCop remake. But even though that's an adaptation of another film, it's kind of the same thing, where it kind of does just enough to interpret it in a way that is new, but still represents the broad strokes and the overall tone of the original.
Yeah, so there's it's hard to adapt, and
I agree. And
So
we
for
talk
John
about that on
Carter,
this podcast from time
yeah.
to time.
So for John Carter, for me, I thought it was a good adaptation. They brought the elements they needed to, and they rearranged certain elements to fit to make it less of a slog. Because in the original book, he shows up, all this thing happens with the Tarks, the tribe of aliens, and then all this stuff happens. But then him, Deja, and what's her face, they all escape. But as they're escaping, they run into another tribe, much more savage tribe, and that tribe is led by the guy with a broken tusk. But obviously,
C. Thomas Howell.
No,
yeah.
Thomas Hayden Church.
Same thing.
No.
No. So he has.
I mean, similar enough.
Don't let Thomas Hayden Church hear you say that.
What? No, I like them both. Is it a New Zealand, Australia situation? Look, I just like them both.
C. Thomas Howell is the guy from Red Dawn. Thomas Hayden Church is the guy from Sideways and Wings.
Yeah, I like them both.
Fine.
And they have similar sounding names, so same thing. Please continue, Sammy.
But they took that out. So instead of having, they streamlined it. Is what I'm getting at. The point is they streamlined it. They took that tribe, brought it into the main tribe that he encounters, and then streamlined all that adventure. Which kind of sucks because the Tao Hodges, which is the Tawantas guy, I liked his character a lot, even though he's not in it for very long, because you immediately introduce, his introduction is he's the second in command, and his introduction is he just turns around and fights the leader, and then he uses that one tusk and gets him in the groin, and then completely splits him all the way up using that tusk.
Look,
not really something we're going to see in a Disney movie.
That would not be out of place in this film, though. If it were in any Disney movie, it would be in this one. Because holy fuck,
it was violent.
Like
wasn't
you
it?
know that like the MPAA was like, all right, Disney, look, we're on good terms, so I'm gonna float this to you. If you make the blood a different color, you can do pretty much whatever the fuck you want. So just.
That's why alien blood tends to be a different color, so it doesn't look bloody.
Because there's some ferocious, fucked up shit in this movie.
I actually
this is. I don't understand how this is not an 80s movie. This is an 80s kids movie, is what this is.
It is
100%.
Yeah, and I love it. And I thought this design of everything looked really good. I would say my biggest qualm, the most unforgivable qualm, is that the costumes are not book accurate.
Oh, because they're all naked, right?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Everyone's nude in the book. Yeah. And Sammy's like, I want to see a bunch of people getting nude.
Yeah, and then dude, jump around and fight each other on Mars.
Right.
With swords.
Sammy's like, I want to see everybody jiggling.
I'm not saying
that works for the book. That works for the book, but like in a movie, I feel like I'd be a little too distracted.
No, I'm not gonna lie.
Dongs everywhere and titties flapping around. Like
I don't think it does work for the book.
Everywhere.
No, that's the thing is I don't think it does work for the book because that's still an issue.
You still get that middle picture where you're like, like.
No, because I'm
this man trusted a fart he shouldn't have, and now we're all suffering. Like, no, because
we put ourselves in those characters that we read in books. I personally would rather have armor if I'm sword fighting a bunch of shit on Mars. Yeah. I personally want to
because you're worrying about because look, like underpants and pants or shorts or jeans or slacks or whatever, those don't only serve the purpose of covering your swimsuit area, but they make it easier for a human being, especially a male human being, to move around without having to worry about business just flopping around.
Right.
Just in the breeze wherever it pleases. It contains your business. And I would argue
contained.
Business is contained when you're wearing clothes, and there are times to not have it contained. That's fantastic.
It's just good job. One less thing you have to worry
about. But it's not sword fighting.
Yes.
Sword fighting is not the time.
Sword fighting is
your business uncontained. Yes, you need your business contained in a fight.
You'd rather have your business contained and shipped off somewhere else. You just have to deal
hey, if it were detachable, I would rarely have it on. I'm just saying it would be in my medicine cabinet because fuck that.
So no, when I read old fiction books like this where everyone's naked and doing stuff, I just think to myself, it's so unrealistic. Clothes have so much purpose that when everyone's naked,
purpose.
So much purpose. This isn't just because because we have to. Like it protects us from the elements. It keeps
It really
things.
does.
Yeah,
Contained.
It keeps
As
the
I said
business
before, contained.
contained. It
right.
keeps the business contained.
I just didn't want to use that word again.
No,
Hey,
use it.
why
That's what
not?
it's there for.
Right.
We at the Disenfranchised Podcast are in favor of the containment of business.
But
We
Not all
really
the
are.
time, but at appropriate
In
times.
appropriate situations, let that business fly. But most of the
Correct.
time, contain that business.
In appropriate consensual
There you
circumstances,
go.
let the business fly.
Or solo
but
times.
but the
Or solo.
circumstances typically are not on Mars.
Right.
Sword
No.
fighting.
No.
There's lots of violence
I
going
guess it
on. I
depends on
feel
what
like the
kind of
more
sword
clothes
fighting
I'm
we're talking
wearing,
about, but
Yeah. See, okay, so yeah, going back to the movie. Generally speaking, I liked it. Most of any complaint I have are like really weird, subtle qualms that are kind of world building for me because I don't remember. I like the book. He goes into extreme detail in describing stuff. So when you see those aliens inside the Disney movie, I mean, you've seen Frank Fraza's artwork, I'm sure. You've seen Michael Whalen's artwork, I'm sure, because in the book that is how they are described. Like that's the image in your head you should be having when you read the book. Like the description's really good. But like some of the like weird issues I had, and I don't remember the world. Like the world inside the book was built so well, but like in the movie, when they take him, John Carter, like the Tarks take him back to their area, their world, like with the arena and stuff. You see the cave, like you see the carvings and stuff, and all the buildings is of Tharks. Like that's to show you that that's where they live. Except that in the book, they are actually a nomadic tribe, so they're hanging out in ruins. There are these massive, just sweeping ruins of cities. And what they did is they smashed a bunch of buildings down to create that Colosseum. So one of like the really important elements for the book that would surprise me they completely missed was that the entire time he's in the first book, the entire time he's like visiting these ruins and going on these adventures, he's mystified by the artwork of the white people on all of these buildings. And this actually sets up for characters that are later on in the book series. So I'm surprised that they didn't do a lot of that background setup if they were planning on doing more movies. That's surprised they didn't do
I think they originally
setup.
only planned to do 3.
Right, which is only really
and
3.
Then it was right
for the main
story. I think that was part of Stanton's original pitch was this is something that can keep going.
Right.
That was kind of his pitch. He basically begged Disney to buy the rights back from Paramount after they'd lost them in, I think, the early 2000s.
Well, after that McGee, where they like paid a whole bunch for pre-production, then it ended up being a write-off.
Yeah, so okay. Let me get into the production hell on this movie. I know Tucker's been looking forward to this, so we're gonna do this.
There's just so much.
There is
all the way back to like
31 was the earliest
30s,
attempt.
man.
See, and that to me would have been the most perfect time for this. Especially as a cartoon. This would have been the most perfect medium for it. Because when this first came out, like, don't understand, I'm a fan. But when I saw the trailer for this, my first thought was, well, who cares? Who's gonna watch this? I don't know anyone else.
That was my thought too.
Because we like
yes, general consensus. Yes,
we know what Mars looks like. So like that element, that magic element isn't there, and that's something that doesn't translate because of time.
Yeah.
Because like it's already hard enough to deal with like the dark African continent shit from that time period,
right?
But it's easier to imagine because humans are moving around and constantly changing things around, so it's easier to let your imagination run wild with those older stories. But with Mars and like other interplanetary stuff, it's kind of hard to let your imagination run wild because we know what the surfaces of those planets look like in full detail. So trying to get a brand new audience roped in with this magical fantasy version of Mars has got to be an impossible task. No one's out here wanting to believe in some magical fantasy version of Mars.
Right. I mean, particularly because we've already had, the Lord of the Rings has come and gone. The Pirates of the Caribbean movies have come and gone. Like we've had our share of kind of the fantastical otherworld stuff.
But that's also reasonable fantasy. Those are also reasonable fantasy movies. I find this to be an unreasonable fantasy.
So in 1931, Bob Clampett worked with the Looney Tunes, the creator of Beanie and Cecil, a cartoon that I love to get up early on Saturday mornings and watch at like 5:30 in the morning. Approaches Burroughs
Right after
directly
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
because he wants to adapt the Carter novels into an animated feature. There is test footage that he made. It is
I feel
on
like I've seen
YouTube.
that.
It's on
I say I
YouTube. You
feel like
can.
I've seen that, and it looks pretty fantastic.
I'll
Yeah.
see if I can remember to link it in the show notes. In fact, I've got the show notes pulled up here. Clampett link. I'm going to just type that in the show notes right now. But the test footage doesn't actually go anywhere. It fails to wow the investors. Had it wowed the investors, and had the film actually been made, it would have beaten Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs to the big screen and would have established Clampett as one of the premier voices in animation, as opposed to Walt Disney. I'd like to think there's another world out there where people have the same reverence for Cecil that they do for Mickey Mouse.
Well, and after that, there were a lot of adaptations by people involved with Looney Tunes that were successful.
Adaptations of John Carter?
No, I mean stuff like later on Chuck Jones did an adaptation of like Phantom Tollbooth,
right?
Proving that sort of thing was viable,
right?
And
well, I think Disney was kind of the first one to prove that, but yeah, with Snow White,
I'm saying seeing that it's just a shame that the Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies crew wasn't given something like that earlier, because I think it could have been really rad. Could have been really weird, because like that test footage, it's pretty wild.
It is. That's what I think. I think the surrealism of that's inherent with that time period of animation would have matched the fantastic elements of John Carter. Because honestly, the artwork that this series has inspired, like the series itself is mid. Like it's really not very good. It's bare elements of what you can even call a book series. But the artwork it has inspired and the influence it's had is outrageous. So I think that animation would have worked really good with that art style.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
Ray Harryhausen wants to do an adaptation, but nothing ever
I'd
comes
watch
of that.
That too.
In the 50s,
stop motion. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be a really great way to do the Tharks. That'd be phenomenal.
That would be a lot of work. I mean, fuck.
It's Ray fucking Harryhausen, dude.
I know. I've seen the skeletons. I'm just saying those are big armies. It would look fantastic. I'm just saying it would take a lot of work.
It would. In the late 80s, under Jeffrey Katzenberg, the man who gave us Quibi, Disney begins to develop a live-action John Carter franchise because they realize they need one. I think they end up going with Dick Tracy instead. But the year that Dick Tracy comes out, John McTiernan, fresh on the heels of Predator, Die Hard, and The Hunt for Red October, comes on to direct. Bob Gale, the guy who would eventually give us who did give us Back to the Future,
co-writer
with Robert Zemeckis. Is the one who's tasked to write a lighter, more comedic script. Tom Cruise is all but confirmed to play John Carter.
I would
see that around that time.
I would watch
Julia Roberts
made around that time.
in talks to be Deja.
I would disagree with that, but
the princess.
Who was it?
Julia Roberts.
Was in talks. I mean,
I get it,
I don't know,
but I disagree.
I would not have high expectations, but she's surprised me before, so who knows?
And then McTiernan leaves in 92, convinced that CGI is the only way to go, and he's really not. He's not
You're
impressed
not there
with,
yet either.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Jurassic Park is the next year, and Last Action Hero comes out opposite Jurassic Park, and just Jurassic Park eats its lunch and pretty much everything else. See our previous episode on Last Action Hero.
Jurassic Park is such a weird moment in effects, because there for just like one movie, we had the perfect blend of practical and CGI, and for CGI to be so young at that time and
Right.
to look that good and to still look so fucking convincing.
Well, and the
It was
biggest
that was a very like lightning in the bottle moment in cinema, I feel like, for effects.
the biggest computer effects moments in film up to this point in 92,
It was like T2.
it would have been T2, and it's
Future World had the hand, like
I and was it the young Sherlock Holmes had the night, the stained glass window night?
Yep.
But like these are
Sean Patrick Flannery.
These are all
my boy.
Movies wherein it's like we know what can be rendered and look believable. Alien races were not there yet. We weren't there yet. I mean, we could only get to toys in 95. Like we weren't at the point where what Carter or what McTiernan was looking to do was even remotely feasible.
Yeah.
Michael Chabon, in the future Pulitzer Prize winner for The Adventures of Cavalier and Claire, writes an unproduced screenplay called The Martian Agent about the conquest of Mars by the British Empire in the 1890s. That sounds fucking incredible.
That sounds fun. I want to read that. Is that a thing I can read?
I don't know. I haven't looked for it. Jan de Bont, director of Twister and Speed, was slated to direct, but the project was canceled after his movie Speed 2 came out and the box office receipts were in.
Cruise control right through that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Poor Jason Patrick.
That is worth mentioning only because it is the reason why Michael Chabon comes on to write this movie. Is because he had written this previous scripts, and Andrew Stanton hears about it and goes, hey, you should come and make this and join us on this one. And he's like, okay, because he's a big John Carter fan as well. The rights in the 2000s eventually get purchased by Paramount with the help of, human blister Harry Knowles. They want to Paramount wants to bring on Robert Rodriguez to direct. Rodriguez wants to make it
shit.
Exactly. Rodriguez wants to make it like Sin City. He wants to use the Frank Frazetta artwork as the model, but because of him resigning from the DGA,
which, look, as much as I'm like a union guy and all for workers' rights, like Robert Rodriguez, I think was totally justified in getting out of that, because that was kind of some bullshit. Like, let him credit Frank Miller. Like, if he feels like Frank Miller was enough of a force on the film to co-credit him as director, like, let the man do it. Like, I don't see the problem.
But he would have wanted to make it completely digital there as well. And then Paramount ends up letting him go because they don't want to finance a non-union movie. Understandably.
Which is fair. Which is also fair, yeah.
Danny Trejo would have played Taras Tarkas.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. 100%. Where's Antonio Banderas? Where is he in this film?
Oh, he's fucking John Carter. Are you kidding me? Yes.
Can he be, please? I want to see that.
If Antonio Sabato Jr. can do it, Antonio Banderas should have done it.
I want to do a Flash like Eric Stoltz Back to the Future, where I get to see the Robert Rodriguez version of this movie.
I think
I'm so into it. Selma Hayek is in there.
Oh, she would of course be
Deja, yeah. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I want to see it so bad. I don't know if it's going to be good or bad, but it's going to be something that I'm going to be way into.
It would have been fucking cool is what it would have been. Rodriguez leaves. Paramount brings on Kerry Conran, the man who directed future episode of this podcast, Sky Captain in the World Tomorrow, of course.
Yeah, why? Like, again, like, really cool idea. Execution? Come on.
And to write the script, they brought in the man who gave us Scream 3, Aaron Kruger, to
Aaron
write.
Kruger.
Yeah. And they're both gone by 2005 when Jon Favreau of Elf fame and Mark Fergus, who would eventually write Children of Men, are brought on to direct and write, respectively.
I watched that one too.
Their approach was considered extremely ambitious, would have combined both practical and digital effects.
Into it.
For makeup, and it would have combined aspects of the first 3 John Carter novels to create the story.
So kind of like what we got then.
Kind of. They would eventually leave to work on a little independent movie called Iron Man. Little indie. I don't know if you guys have heard of that one or not.
I saw that one. I think it was pretty all right. I just like Favreau in general. I think he's a competent filmmaker, and he seems like a really wholesome guy. So like I'm on board. Did you see that movie he made like right after Iron Man 2 where it was like a food truck?
Yeah, Chef. That's his. I'm pissed you guys didn't like Cowboys versus Aliens
movie
movies.
Was so fucking good. You guys
That's
go see
literally
that.
him bitching that people
So
didn't
good,
like Cowboys
though.
versus Aliens. That's the
It's
whole
look,
point of
it's
that
John
movie.
Favreau.
Oh,
I
so
did
you're
too,
the one.
actually.
Future episode of this
like that one
podcast,
too.
Cowboys and Aliens.
Oh,
Sammy,
dude,
you're on that one. BT Dubs.
Oh,
Casual
good,
Sammy
because you
for
can
Cowboys versus
hear about
and
my
Aliens,
hate for the Damon Lindelof.
Let's do
Damon
it.
Lindelof? You don't like him?
Into it.
Don't like him. He has single-handedly ruined Hollywood. Like, there are circles that call something called the Lindelof effect about his effect on Hollywood and his writings.
Who's
and
this guy? What's he doing?
The writer for like
he
Lost.
He was one of the producers on Lost.
What else has he done?
He did Prometheus.
Prometheus.
He was one of the writers. Leftovers, the show The Leftovers. He did the Watchmen TV show.
I really liked that. You guys,
that was really fucking good. It is.
So
I agree.
Good. Like I might watch it again.
You should.
Honestly.
You know what? You know what? It's better than the movie.
In a lot of respects, yes, I agree. But I still do have a good time with the movie. I think it looks fantastic.
So that brings us to the late aughts, where Andrew Stanton, who is a Pixar animator, director at this point of Finding Nemo,
hey, that's
and
the
Wall-E,
guy who directed this movie,
and lifelong John Carter fan, makes an impassioned plea to Disney to secure the rights so that they can make it into their next post-Pirates action franchise. It's almost like he knew Prince of Persia was about to fail.
That's too bad too.
We talk a lot about.
You hate to see him fail.
We talk a lot about Disney's like deep desire to like get another action franchise for boys on their slate after Pirates in the Prince of Persia episode.
Am I crazy though? Wasn't there like a McG version that was going to happen?
I don't think so. McTiernan.
Did I mix that up with something else that I researched this week?
It might have been McTiernan, but I don't
know.
I didn't come across anything about McG.
Something about McG. Like maybe, I don't know what else I would have been Wikipediaing this week.
I mean, he was supposed to make
us as a
verb. He was supposed to make a Superman movie that he backed out of because he didn't want to fly.
No, that sounds right though.
I'm thinking of it. There's a McG version, and like they paid a lot for pre-production, but they never actually started filming.
That sounds like Superman Flyby is what it sounds like.
No, I have not researched Superman recently. That's wild.
That's what
alternate
it sounds
timeline,
like.
Steven. I'm telling you, it happens. Paul Dano was in Dylan Dog the last time I watched it.
Never happened.
Which is crazy because it was the other guy this time.
Well, to be fair, Superman is based off of John Carter, so.
I was going to say the power set I noticed is very similar to the original power set for Superman, like able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. And
it's all about being on another planet and that affecting you in a different way. Like Superman is not super on Krypton, but he's super on Earth because of the way Earth works.
Correct. And it seems as though John Carter is the same. And John Carter created a good 20 years before Superman. So
that boy can jump like a motherfucker.
Mm-hmm. He could leap a tall building in a single bound.
I love this movie. I do. I had a really good time with this movie, but I do have a few qualms with it. And one of the qualms I have is some of the wire work is just so obvious. And honestly, I don't know if you could do it better than they did it.
I've always thought about stuff like that.
So it's like, that guy's on a wire because that doesn't look like a movement a person would make in that situation.
Well, no, there's also a situation. I thought about this a lot too about special effects and why I hate calling special effects cheesy. because sometimes I wonder if a special effects looks bad because the special effects is creating something that we've never seen, so it looks weird to us. Because when I was a kid, when like during the Iraq War and stuff, I remember on the news watching video footage of this helicopter bouncing off of a ship, and it looked completely fake to me because like the physics, all
Yeah.
that was such a brand new concept, and I sometimes wonder if like that is a situation like with his jumping, if that's as bad as it's going to look because that's what it would look like in real life, but it looks really stupid to us because we've never seen a human being jump like that.
All I know is that Taylor Kitsch really hated being hooked up to that harness. They said some of his descents would be close to 80 miles per hour, and he hated it.
Dude. I can imagine. I mean, it doesn't look bad. It fits the tone of the film. Like, I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying that some of it's very, very obvious that they are not natural movements. That there is a point on his body where a harness is manipulating him,
Right.
and that's not the fault of anyone. Like I said, I think it's the best they could have done.
Right.
It's just noticeable sometimes, unfortunately.
Right.
I see what you're saying.
It's not a deal breaker. It doesn't ruin the movie for me. Again, I had a really great time with this.
For me, I think it's most notable in like that first scene on Mars where he's like trying to figure out how to jump and is like tripping and falling and just like, I think that's where it's most noticeable for me.
It's funny because that's the most noticeable, but for me, from a filmmaking perspective, it makes the most sense that it would be because it's awkward as fuck.
Right.
And the way that he's moving doesn't make any sense, and that kind of puts you in his shoes because
it's
he's
supposed to
moving.
Right.
Yeah, it's disorienting, which I don't know. It's kind of a brilliant twist because I recognized it as something that I would normally be like, well, that's kind of dumb.
Mm-hmm.
But the way it was done, I was sold. Like, I'm into it, way into it. So even the bad stuff in this movie was good for me, is what I'm trying to say.
My biggest qualm, and I know you guys are going to disagree with me on this, my biggest qualm with this movie is the lead. I think Taylor Kitsch is very miscast in this.
I actually don't disagree with you on that. When I first saw this, I thought he was great back when I saw it in theaters. But on my watch through, I thought
You're the guy who saw it in the theater. You're the guy.
Yeah.
I did. I went and saw it in theaters.
Congratulations, disenfranchised listeners. You are now talking to the guy who saw John Carter in the movie theater.
Of course.
Congratulations, everyone involved. Mazel tov.
Of course. Thank you. It was a lot of work. Okay.
Coming to get you, Sammy. They're coming to get you, dude.
I guess so. What was I saying?
The takes are too hot.
Oh yeah, no. Rewatching this, he was not my favorite part of that movie.
Really? This is the first time I've seen it, so maybe I'm biased like you were.
So he's not a huge fan.
He is Stanton's number one choice because Stanton watched an episode of Friday Night Lights. Oh, come on.
Calm down, Chicago.
Chicago, calm your tits. Take it down.
Just about 20% off the top, and you're good.
It's what I get for living off a major intersection. Anyway, he was Stanton's first pick because Stanton had seen, I think it was the pilot of Friday Night Lights, and there was an image of Kitsch in that show that looked
he's like in a pose.
It looked very similar to one of the covers of a John Carter book that Stanton had. And so even before he was even in consideration for this, he just kind of had like Kitsch in his mind. So even when Tom Cruise comes back and is like, hey, I would love to play John Carter.
No.
He's like, well, I've already auditioned this other guy and he's kind of my choice. And Stanton says that he and Cruise had a very nice lunch, that Cruise was very understanding, laid out his case. Stanton said he said he completely understood like where Stanton was with the audition process. He said, well, look, if you decide not to go that way, give me a call. Stanton says, sounds good. And they left, and it was all very amicable and very nice and not contentious at all.
That's fantastic.
So
look, I have to.
Here's the thing. The production on this movie, completely untroubled. Like there are no major accidents, no major incidents, none of this
Look,
like behind the scenes shit.
everybody loved working on this movie.
They
Like
did.
you talk to all the main people involved,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "Look, if the same crew's not involved, we're not into it."
Yeah.
Like that was a fantastic shoot. We had a good time. We made a good movie.
They liked working with Stanton. Defoe had worked with him on Finding Nemo and like really enjoyed the
Yeah.
collaboration they had, so he like leapt at the chance. Plus, he thought it would be fun to like act a fun challenge to act on stilts and in pajamas, which is what he called the
Right.
mocap suit.
Right.
Like he
That would
wanted
be a blast, I feel
he
like.
wanted the extra challenge, and so like he got it.
Yeah.
But like I think he was the only one that had been kind of following the movie in the trades, because everyone else seemed very blindsided by the public reaction to it, and he, I think more than anyone else, kind of saw the writing on the wall, because he's like, I was following it. It's kind of one of those things, like I don't do it obsessively, but like when you're on something that you enjoy working on, you kind of hope that the audience is going to see it and respond to it that way, and I could tell they weren't. I think Michael Chabon also kind of knew this isn't going to go, because I think he got some of the advanced reviews that were coming out right ahead of the premiere. And then
Well,
like the
and
premiere is where they told Kitsch and Collins like this is going to be horseshit.
and that's too bad because like the test screenings they had. Like there's so many things in the post production, mainly the marketing of this movie that just ruined any chance of this doing anything. And it's a
Right.
damn shame because this movie, I feel like whether you think it's good or great or okay or just fine, I think still it deserves more than that. Because not only was a lot of money put
Mm-hmm.
into it, which like
We'll
fuck the
get into
money
that.
guys, whatever, but this is a movie where Disney was like, okay, like because you have beaten the odds
Mm-hmm.
on the other films that you have helmed, we are going to trust you with this impossible task. Dude completes the impossible task in an acceptable manner, and then it all dies in the marketing.
I was going to say the marketing
It
is
all
really
fucking
what
dies in the marketing.
kills the. So the first death knell, and this is the one where Chabon's like, this is where I knew we were fucking screwed, is when the marketing person basically says, you know, they went back for the last 15 years with all the movies that had Mars in the title, and most of them didn't do very well. And it was everything from like Mars Attacks to Mars Needs Moms to Mission to Mars, Red Planet, all that shit. And basically was just like, movies with Mars in the title don't sell, so we're just going to call it John Carter, which is
Well,
fucking dumb. Because
and
who
look,
knows who John Carter is? Answer: nobody.
I understand where they're coming from, but at a certain point you have to realize that you're not gonna like John Carter, who's fucking John Carter, like anybody's
Right.
John Carter.
But
They
John
ran a
Carter.
Oh, I'm going to get to
contest
that
for
here in a
people
second.
whose names were John Carter. Like
Oh,
it's
yeah, you
like
read that
Bob
too. Okay.
Smith,
Yeah.
like, you know,
But you got John
whatever
Carter
of Mars.
of Mars. It's like, oh, I want to know who John Carter of Mars is.
Yes,
Also,
Right.
absolutely. Why is he on
that
Mars?
can
Why does he have like a common American name and he's on fucking Mars? What is going
right.
on here?
Also, that conclusion that they arrived at is based off of what I want another piece of data to show that Mars is the reason that movies with the title Mars don't do well.
Ghosts of
Like,
Mars was probably on that list as well.
Look,
Like,
yeah, but
and
like,
look, the
what's
name
the
of a
data? What's the
movie,
data that brought them to that conclusion that that was the cause of
right.
those movies doing bad?
the name of a movie definitely factors into things, but not as much as how it's presented in promotional materials, not as much as the word of mouth. Like a title, it's a thing, but like this, I feel like this with the right marketing it could have done fine.
I
And
Called The
here's
Princess of Mars.
I was gonna say I
but,
think calling it the Princess of Mars actually would have been really great.
but they weren't
Absolutely.
going to do that because they said,
Because
quote, no boy
girls,
would
man.
attend.
Right.
Girls don't give a shit about space, apparently. In
And
this
boys
very
don't give a
focused, narrow view that
and,
fucking the corporate people at Disney have.
and boys won't see a movie with a
Fuck
princess.
off.
Yeah.
Get out
No,
of
I
here.
get it.
It's such
But then the
bullshit.
marketing that they did release, like the teaser trailer, was basically just it was a Peter Gabriel
Befuddling.
cover
Like,
of a Arcade Fire song, and it just had like it, but it didn't give any information about what the film was, what it was about, who the creatives behind it were.
just John Carter.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's it. That's
Fucking
all you know.
cool. That's great.
Tucker mentioned they did a secret fan screening for people named John Carter for some reason, apparently.
I'm into that, actually.
If your
Despite the
name was
fact that
John
it
Carter,
doesn't matter, I'm way into it.
Yeah, they did a secret fan screening for people whose name it was a common enough name that if you could just send in and they'd send you a ticket to this secret fan screening.
Yeah, dude.
What? They need to do more
did
promotions like that. That's so stupid.
It's
Stupid
the
names.
dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Get your
It
John
is.
Wicks together. There's got to be a
I
few,
know.
right?
Particularly now that those movies were popular. I'm sure there's a few people that changed their
Get
names.
another Bill and Ted sequel. All
Mhm.
friends that are Bill, William, and Theodore. Get your asses in there, man. It's free.
They released another
Harold and Kumar. Sorry, go ahead.
They released another
Saving
very
Private
vague
Ryan?
and confusing Super Bowl
What?
spot.
Vin Diesel.
All right, I'll just let you guys go off.
No, please, Steven. We're done. I promise. That was it. We're done. Solemnly swear to not. It's your turn. Go. We're raising our right hands and swearing on. What do I have here? I have a weed jar full of guitar picks. Swearing on that. Go, Steven. Go. No, we're done. We're done. In fact, I have to pee, so please talk. No, please talk because I have to pee right now. I'm doing it right now. I'm going to pee right now, so you have to talk.
They did. There was the Super Bowl trailer was equally confusing. Again, no information, just the Led Zeppelin song "Kashmir." I think some like John Carter fans actually recut the trailer to actually, mention the director, mention the source material, mention the screenwriter, all prominent figures that might be good to mention. And then
is
Disney,
point,
right? Yeah, and the guy who did Finding Nemo and Wall-E, the guy who the Pulitzer Prize-winning writer of The Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, based on novels that inspired Dune and Star Wars and Superman, like the movies that made science fiction. Like this is the root cause. Like stuff that people would probably be interested in seeing. And then the other thing that's really confusing is that Disney usually does like this big cross promotion for their big movies. They'll do like promotion across like everything. They'll do like theme parks. They'll roll out merchandise. Like making sure that they spotlight it on across platforms on television, like their networks, ABC. They'll give like special promotion to stuff like that, and just none of it was happening for John Carter, which is kind of insane because this film, the final delivered budget that has been announced is $307 million.
Jeez.
Which is insane. Like the budget on the numbers is smaller than that. I think the budget on the numbers that they have listed is, oh damn it, where is it? Is 263.7 million, but that doesn't factor in like marketing and things like that. So like we're over $300 million to make this movie, and
that's
yet
a lot of millions of dollars.
Disney doesn't seem concerned about making that back. Now, part of that could be that there is a regime change at Disney right around the time this film is entering post-production. The guys who greenlit the film are gone, and they're replaced by someone from the Disney television division. So that might be a big part of why it didn't get the marketing push, is because the people who are in charge now they're not invested in this movie the way that their predecessors were. And in
Right.
a lot of cases, they see it as, well, that's his thing. I'm going to let it fail so that I can do my own shit. Like, that's
Right.
the old regime. This is me, and I'm going to do my shit, and it's going to be better than what that asshole was trying to do. So, and I'm sure we'll run into similar problems whenever we get to the 2013 Gore Verbinski Lone Ranger movie that came out the year after this one.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The movie starring a wannabe cannibal and an alleged domestic abuser. So, yeah. Fun.
I think, more importantly, Johnny Depp is playing a native person, an indigenous person.
Yeah, also a very problematic thing.
Which is not necessary. There are indigenous actors out there that could have filled that role. That's the only problem with it, honestly.
100%.
Look, in a perfect world, we've got enough indigenous people filling enough indigenous roles that Johnny Depp can pop in there and do one as an interpretation, and it's not offensive, and it's not like stupid and like a dumb decision. But because indigenous people were not fulfilling those roles in Hollywood historically up to that point, it's just a shame. Because you can do a Lone Ranger. You can do a Lone Ranger in that time period, is what I'm saying. And you can make it to where it's not shitty and upsetting. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I may have gotten off the beaten path there, but I think you guys understand.
They could have approached it. They could have approached it with
saying.
more thoughtfulness. Well, it's kind of weird too to look at that time period and still seeing shit like that.
Right, because, and that wasn't too long ago.
Right,
because the wild thing about it.
2013, it was like
we were rewatching. We were watching
barely 10 years later. Yeah,
we were watching 30 Rock last year, and some of the shit that's in that, I'm like, that wasn't that long ago. Like, that's like 2009 on.
Yeah,
and, like,
they did a fucking blackface episode.
Yeah, and like, yeah, some of the stuff on there pulling, I was shocked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I think and that's a different kind of historical context, because I think at that time we were at a place as a society where you could do that kind of stuff, and I'm not going to say it wasn't so much offensive, but like people understood like that it was comedy, like everybody's making fun of everybody. It's a whole thing now. Maybe because things like the political
70s.
Climate.
Well, maybe that show came out. Maybe that show came out in the 70s, but not in 2009 and 10. That wasn't okay.
No,
I don't know. I don't know.
Culturally, I don't feel like we were there then. I feel like 2005 to 6 is kind of when this whole woke thing started.
That's the sweet spot. Yeah.
Tucker defends blackface.
No. Yo, I will defend Tropic Thunder, though, but I feel like we've gotten way off the beaten path here. Let's get back to, what the fuck are we talking about? John Carter.
John motherfucking Carter. No,
Carter.
We can start to bring this in for landing. Any final thoughts before I move into the box office?
Yes. On what? The movie or what we just talked about?
I will say the funniest part of this movie is when they get to the one place and they figure out they're supposed to be at the other place, and the forearmed alien just like smacks him. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
Like, that's the funniest. I have never laughed. I very loudly, I guffawed at that part. And I didn't laugh at any other part in this movie. Like, I chuckled a few times. There's some jokes. But that's just out of nowhere. Dude's just like, what the fuck, man? Like, how are we here when we're supposed to be there? It was... Loved that. That's my final thought.
Honestly, I didn't have a whole lot of thoughts because I generally think this is a good adaptation. I think my biggest qualm, though, because it does actually affect a lot of the plot, is the change in the characterization of John Carter. He's
So
not.
talk a little more about that. You mentioned that at the beginning, but I don't think you unpacked that.
He is
Unpack
a
that for us now, if you will.
southern. Yeah. So, and I don't actually hate the change. I just think that they just need to be a little more cautious with the change that they made, because in the book
Are
he's
you
a.
saying this man owned slaves?
I am saying this man very much possibly owned slaves. He was a southern gentleman, and like of a very chivalrous. So imagine like all the most cliche,
Rhett Butler, basically,
yeah, that you can think of. That's what he was. He
or
he was very
maybe more Ashley, the other guy in Gone with the Wind, the Leslie Howard character.
Yeah. Either way, there's that kind of character, those kind of people, and like everything he did was just the best. He's very skilled. Like in the movie, he learns the language by what, eating some food or some
He
powder or
drinks
something.
the milk,
Right.
the baby alien milk. He drinks it. That's the impression I got.
In the book, he
It's
learns the
kind of
language.
unclear some of the plot points. Sorry, go
Well,
ahead.
yeah, it's because and that's actually one of the cool things I think. Okay, well, in the book, he learns the language by they teach it to him. They just tell
Not fun cinematically.
him. Right.
Where's that montage fit?
well, well, he picks up on it super fast. So in the books, the
Sure.
kids, the little alien, and they teach him with the kids. So he's with them when they go to get the little aliens, babies, and then
Right.
she
Oh,
teaches.
he's a little alien kindergartner. He's
Yes,
sitting in the circle
because what
on the
happens?
rug.
Yeah, their brains.
They're
They're
reading
actually
Mr. Banana Head.
in the books. They're when they're born, their brains are fully developed. They just have to be taught the
Oh,
things like
nice.
language and use of tools. So he's easily,
Okay.
since he's
That's
already
fun.
fully developed, he's easily able to figure out their language through the
It
system of
fits,
teaching.
yeah.
Yeah. So
That's rad. I kind of want to read the
there's
books now.
yeah, but it's honestly not that great.
So,
I
like,
love
don't
your
get me
stance
wrong,
on
I'm
this,
a
Sammy,
fan, but
because you're like, this is the shit, but also it's not really that awesome. Like, where
this
does
is the
it
shit,
lie?
but
Who
it's also
knows?
kind of shit.
Yeah.
Well, because like he just pulls stuff out of his ass. Like it's just one adventure after another with no connection, and they try to make a connection
Yeah,
with.
they're serials.
Like I said, right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the whole kidnapping thing, the whole kidnapping plot point with that country didn't happen until like the last 3 chapters of the book. But here's
Right.
the thing: there's no setup, and these aren't long chapters. They're just really short chapters, and they slap into just matter of fact, which actually are changes that I really appreciated. They made the changes more cinematic because the books, they're really basic. It's like the movie. There's really not a whole lot going. The guy shows up, he rescues the princess from being married, and one of the things I liked about the characterization for her change is they gave her the ability to fight. That fit her character better. The character originally already was written actually pretty well. Like as far as female characters go, I mean, given the time period, that was actually pretty progressive for that time period. Like even by hell up until like the mid or early 2000s, that's pretty progressive. Like she was the scientist.
Well, and with the film, I appreciated how they sort of juxtaposed that to where you were very aware that she was a capable woman, but because of the way her society was, she was not, seen for all that she was more. I don't want to say objectified, but like not seen as someone who was capable. Like her dad dismisses her immediately. She's like, "Yo, I got this science, dude. The science is saying we should do this, and we
Yeah.
can figure this shit out and defeat him." And her dad's like, "No, just marry this dude because you're just a woman."
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
Apparently, she
in the
was even more badass in the original script, but they toned a lot of that back down in reshoots, which
which
really
is
frustrated the
unfortunate.
actress. Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but I don't think it shows too much. I think it still is
yeah,
an empowering character, and the performance is
and I
something that
and I
sort of
thought they
cements
balanced
that.
that out well because like she's supposed to be the damsel in distress, but it's hard to pull the damsel in distress trope off in modern day for
For a lot
obvious
of
Well,
reasons.
reasons.
Yeah.
because
And
she's fully capable, so
I
the
think
fact
that
that
they
she even
balanced that
gets
out really
captured
well.
is
Yeah.
that's the
Well,
stakes get even higher
in the
because
book, it's fun. She gets captured because she's on a science expedition.
she's a
So
straight up scientist,
because
dude.
she's a
I
straight up
love that
fucking
about her.
scientist. That's her whole thing.
Yeah,
She's
dude.
doing science. She's there for science. But I don't mind the changes they made to her character just because they had updated. Obviously, they had to give her some personality. But his character, it's difficult because he's able to quickly pick up on things, and it's more obvious that he's a tactician. In the movie, they tell you that he's a captain, and you know that he's a veteran in the movie, but it's not obvious how smart he actually is. Also, in the book, he's looking for gold.
I mean, you get some
Native Americans.
You see that he is efficient in hand-to-hand combat, weapon-based combat, and he can lead. Like he does that rousing speech,
right
there that gets the forearm boys going.
He can lead, but he can also leap.
Well, they gave him some more backstory too. There was there's a little visual backstory involving a woman and a child.
He lost family. That
and stuff.
whole cinematically, that whole scene where he's massacring those fucking aliens, and it's being cut into the scenes of him finding his dead family and burying his daughter, is one of the most powerful things I have seen cinematically. Full fucking stop. Full stop. That changed. Like, there's my life before I saw that and my life after are two different things. That was fantastic. No matter how you feel about the rest of this movie, cinematically, that was
it went hard. But
Woo!
see, I like the backstory. I like that change. It gave him more, because the book there's no character in the book. It's just John Carter, and he's like really good at everything.
He's just a guy. Yeah,
he's just a guy who's just amazing at everything he does.
It all works out for him. He's a white guy. It all works out for him. Yeah, it's like 1920, so he's
they try to give him some edge, and I appreciate that.
Yeah,
but yes, the action is good.
Fuck yeah,
the design was good.
John Carter, you guys. Fucking John Carter.
This movie opens March 9th, 2012. It opens in second place with $30,180,188. And it opens in number 2 against the Lorax in its second week, which is kind of not what you want.
That's a shame. And the same thing happened to, this is very similar to another Pixar director came over and did a live action adaptation of something, and even though it was a pretty fucking good movie because it was so expensive and nobody went to see it, people shit on it, just like this movie. I'm talking about Tomorrowland. Do you guys remember Tomorrowland?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the first one that Brad Bird did with the Mission Impossible one, but yeah.
No, I'm talking about Tomorrowland. Like that. That's not a great movie, but it's a good movie. And just like this movie, it deserved a lot better than it fucking got. Sorry. Like, I've been trying to mention that movie this whole podcast. So, like, since we're kind of at the finish line, I felt like I just kind of had to squeeze it in there any way that I could. So I'm sorry, moving on.
In third place, we have, and again, this is like most of this is like the dregs of February. So like, which is of course the dumping ground for the worst movies. In third place, Project X in its second weekend, down from number 2 the week before. Number 4, Act of Valor.
What? Act of what? What the fuck? What?
Act of Valor. I'm guessing that's one of those like war movies made by one of those.
Obviously. I've never heard of it, and that's strange.
The biggest name in it is Rosalind Sanchez.
Oh, cool. Hard pass. What's next? Number 4?
In fifth place, you've got
number 5.
Silent House, which is a horror movie with Elizabeth Olsen. What If the House Was Silent? And then rounding out the top 10, in sixth place, you've got the Eddie Murphy comedy 1,000 Words opening new this week. In seventh place, you've got Safe House. What If the House Was Safe?
Is that
that's the Denzel Ryan Reynolds movie.
Oh, okay. Well, then no.
In eighth place, you've got The Vow, Rachel McAdams, Channing Tatum. What If There Was a Vow? In ninth place, This Means War. What If It Meant War?
I've never heard of any of these movies.
It's February, dude. Dumping grounds.
He's
I
a
know.
runner.
And in 10th place, the reason we can't do the Brendan Fraser Journey to the Center of the Earth, Journey to the Mysterious Island.
That's the number 2. Journey, the number 2.
Correct. But
Not
also,
Journey
it's
to, like,
You
going
know,
to the it's the
I
number 2.
I worked at the movie theater when this came out. That's why we went and saw
Yeah,
it.
you did.
And I
Damn
don't
right you
remember any
did.
of these movies. Like, I don't remember any recollection. Like, nothing. Like, huh?
you remember the Lorax, though.
Yeah. No.
He speaks for the trees.
See
that
our
the-
previous episode on the Lorax.
Is that
Does
the
he
one-
not speak for the trees?
No, he
Oh,
does.
was that supposed to be a franchise?
I mean, it's a Dr.
It's
Seuss
Dr.
thing.
Seuss. You got 3 Grinches.
It's true. But this movie, again, on a, as we said before, 307 million budget,
Jeez Louise.
only makes 73 million domestic.
It's a damn shame.
Another 210 million internationally for a total of about 283 million worldwide. Still, worldwide gross does not even crack the budget, and so this one, any and all hope of sequel, Vulture said it was doomed by its first trailer. Like, there was no way this was gonna
I
go
agree.
anywhere.
You guys, look, you make this movie when you made it. Instead of releasing it in 2012, invent time travel. Hear me out. Invent time travel. Go back to 1984. Release this movie. Gangbusters. The most money a movie has ever made. Highest grossing movie of all time in 1984. Time Machine. That's the answer to all of this. Time Machine.
Simple.
Seems simple.
Simple answer.
It's simple. So
Yeah,
easy.
I think that's going to balloon the
Robert
budget
Downey
even further
Jr.
out of
did it
control.
in like half an hour in Endgame. He was like, "Oh wait, quantum. Yep, okay, got it. It's that easy." I believed it in
Tomatometer
that movie.
score on this one is a 52%. While John Carter looks terrific and delivers its share of pulpy thrills, it also suffers from uneven pacing and occasionally incomprehensible plotting and characterization. The Metascore is a 51 based on mixed or average reviews from 43 critics. And the Letterboxd score on this one is a 2.7, pretty much halfway right down the middle across the board.
I can't believe it. Somewhere in between 2.5 and 3.5 on Letterboxd. I'm shocked.
Sam, out of 5 stars, how do you rate 2012's John Carter?
I give it a good 2.5 to 3 stars.
So 2.75 for Sam.
I put that in
Tucker,
my
what about
movies.
you?
Like, sorry, I was following that up. I just put that in my pulpy movies that are really aren't very good, but are just good movies. If you know what I mean. Like, up there with Solomon Kane. Like, Solomon Kane movie, is it amazing, fantastic? No, but it's a fun movie.
No.
I enjoy it.
I'm glad you liked it. I don't remember being a big fan of it. I think I may have rated it the same I rated this, which would have probably been the max I would have gone on Solomon Kane. But yeah. Tucker, what about you?
Look. So I initially, like I said, when I saw this trailer when it came out, I didn't really have any opinion about it either way, but I knew that that no one was going to see this. I didn't know who this was for. When I watched this film, I recognize that there are things about it that do not work, but the things that do work so well, and there are so many things that come together despite the odds against them, that this for me is a 3.5. Is this a perfect film? No. But there's so many talented people working on this movie, firing on all cylinders, despite all the bullshit going on behind the scenes. So all things considered, 3.5. Steven.
And it's a 2.5 for me. So
That's
yeah,
fair.
I thought it was fine.
That's fair.
It wasn't as egregious as I had been led to believe, but it really wasn't like it wasn't anything that knocked me out either. So
you guys, I can't believe how much I liked this movie. I can't believe I'm the guy who is like
I can't either.
fainting over this movie because I've never had any interest in this. That first
I
trailer, I was
love it.
like, "Who the fuck? Like, who cares? Like, who gives a shit? Nobody's gonna see
it's
this."
fun. The later books are more fun. Like Thuvia Made on Mars, which is the fourth book, is my favorite because she gets kidnapped by this society whose political divide is on whether we exist or don't. That's the political divide.
Yeah, and then there's like, oh, look, I read that there's like underground people like controlling the whole thing shit too. So like it's like
So
it gets really complicated, and like I'm kind of way into that. And give me the John Carter trilogy,
right?
Disney. Come on.
Yes, because even the trilogy it's in it gets crazy with the different races and stuff. Because there's a white superior race that they supposedly all descended from, and there's a black race and a yellow race and stuff. And the white race established themselves as the god over everyone. So John Carter actually leads a revolution against the white race.
Good for him.
Edgar Rice Burroughs invented the white
ape
savior. Yeah. Well, no, not
it's
the
so
white apes.
Weird.
Not the white apes. The white people.
Like,
he invented the white savior complex.
All of this stuff is like so like open-minded and progressive, and to find out that this dude is like, yeah, fucking eugenics, let's get rid of developmentally disabled people and people that are not white, like let's do that. But then like the stuff that comes out of him, look, you can't deny art. Sometimes it comes out of you whether you agree with it or not. Like the truth it speaks for itself.
Cracks me up.
It's pretty wild. I love it.
Oh yeah, there's all fun like robots and Jupiter and alien, other like all kinds of crazy stuff. Giant bees at one point. Yes. It's wild.
I'm so sad that we didn't get the sequels. I want this trilogy so bad, you guys. Like that's the worst part about it because I love this movie so much, and that's fantastic because I found a thing that I really enjoyed, but I don't have anywhere to go from here, and that kind of sucks.
Time to start that letter writing campaign, man.
Yeah. Hey, it worked. It worked for the Diggable Planets record. Maybe it'll work with Disney.
There you go. One way to find out, I guess.
Oh, Andy Dufresne those motherfuckers until they make another John Carter.
Well, that's our episode on 2012's John Carter. Sam, thanks so much for being here, man.
Thanks for having me.
We know it's really late, and we know you got to work in the morning, but man, we appreciate you being here with us. Why don't you tell the people anything you want them to know about your work, where to find it, who you are, what you do, all that good stuff?
Well, the best place you're gonna want to follow me on is Instagram, and my Instagram handle is I am your pallbearer. So classic. That's where you're gonna see updates
for many years.
Yes, and I won't change it. It's mine.
No, yeah.
I really don't get on Facebook. I hate having social media on my phone. I don't want to be on it, but I have to for a lot of reasons. But yeah, go to Instagram. That's going to be the best place to follow me. I'm also on LinkedIn. Don't follow me there.
Unless you're interested in him professionally.
Right. It's like
unless you heard this podcast, you're like, you know what? I'm going to work with this guy.
This guy is going to direct my next movie.
This is a guy I feel like and you know what? I know we're being silly, but that could happen. I'm just saying. Somebody could be like, you know what? I really connect with this guy. Let me get on his motherfucking LinkedIn and let's get together and make $1 bajillion.
It's like this guy is he is our next data entry specialist.
Yes. Changing the industry. The whole data entry industry, Sammy.
Oh.
On top of the world.
That's where you
don't even know it yet.
That's where you find me. But I have a bit. I forgot a part of the podcast. I have something to say about John Carter, but I think I'll give it to you at the very end so you guys can cut it out and decide if you want to save it as an extra.
Okay, I'll trust your judgment on this as editor and sole curator of content.
Yeah, it's a gripe.
Post-production wise,
I have a gripe about John Carter that I forgot to mention, and it's a serious gripe.
No.
So,
no. Now I'm curious. Okay. Oh no.
Right. Okay.
Well, this has been the Disenfranchised podcast. Look, we're all over social media. We're on Blue Sky. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on Letterboxd. We're on, what's the other one? Instagram, at disenfranchpod on all of those platforms. Check us out all over those places. Give us a follow, give us some likes, give us some shares. We appreciate all of that. And hey, while you're on the internet helping us out, swing on over to the disenfranchised page wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, especially if you're on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and review, and if you do, we will read it on the podcast like we did with Brandy's review from last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago. I've lost track of time and life. But yeah, go ahead and leave us one of those, and that helps us out a lot. You can also go to patreon.com/disenfranchpod, where you can find weekly episodes of What Are We Watching, our weekly show where we talk about what we've been watching. Sam joined us. At this point, it's probably been 2 weeks ago, but Sam did join us to talk about what he has been watching and to talk about what we've been watching as well.
Look, and I don't think he knew what he was getting into, because I don't think he expected to be here at 1:30.
No, he he didn't know Tucker's proclivity for making a weekly show go 2 hours.
I told him it was 2 shows. I'm just saying.
I will say I will probably for future podcasts come in for just the podcast itself, not
and we don't blame you at all.
No, that's fair. Absolutely fair.
You can also now you can now find us on Amazon and YouTube Music. We're on both of those sites, so if you would like to listen to us on YouTube Music, Amazon Music, you can find us now in both of those places. We have not been there previously. We are there now, and so that is now a thing.
Thanks to one man. It's me. Spoilers. It's me. I did.
I'll never tell. And yeah, I'm Stephen Foxworthy. I'm your host. You can find me on Instagram, Letterboxd, and Blue Sky at Chewy Walrus. The absent Brett Wright is on Instagram and Letterboxd and Blue Sky at sus_warlock. Just sus warlock on Blue Sky because they hate underscores. Tucker, where can we find you these days?
You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Ice909. That's ICENINE, the number 0 and the number 9. Also, if you haven't checked into Tuck Mugs recently, we've had a whole bunch of guest mugs. Sammy's going to give us a guest mug. It's going to be his wine glass that he's been drinking out of tonight. We are looking forward to that. He's already taken the photo. If you subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/disenfranchpod, that's something that you could hear maybe for like $5 a month. And hey, there's a 7-day trial. No big whoop. Did we already plug the Patreon?
I did.
Am I overselling it?
I don't know.
Anyway, Tuck Mugs, though, that's Tuck_mugs. It's this chill little community on the internet where like we just share mugs, dude. And you know what? It's a practical collection.
Wait.
There's always a story behind it.
So you're telling me I can send you more pictures than just of my studio movie grill glass?
Yeah.
I drink wine out of?
Look, man, send me as many mugs. This is what's included in basically any glassware, any drinkware.
Yeah. Mugs and glassware, pretty much.
Mugs, pint glasses, shot glasses, scotch glasses, wine glasses, plastic cups you put Kool-Aid in, man, travel mugs, anything that has a good story behind it.
That's what we're looking for, is the story more than anything.
It's gotta be visually exciting and have a good origin story behind it. And I find that even if there isn't a good origin story behind a mug of mine, like I can make its boring origin story sound exciting enough to where it's a decent post on Tuck Mugs.
Okay, so if I get that kind of situation, I should submit my own story then.
Yes, Sammy, are you not following Tuck_mugs on Instagram?
Oh, I follow a lot of people on a lot of social media stuff, but I don't see any of your shit. Anyone out there? Not just you. I'm not referring to you specifically. I'm just saying to everyone. Everyone I follow, I don't see your stuff. I don't see.
That's too bad. That's too bad. Not only my personal Instagram is flourishing with a wholesome and wonderful content, but Tuck Mugs. I
Well,
think is my greatest accomplishment on the internet,
so I
honestly.
know I follow Tuck Mugs. I do occasionally see it, but do I not also follow your personal Instagram?
I don't know, man. Maybe.
I want to see a
I don't know.
flourish on
Straight up,
Instagram.
maybe.
Yeah, dude. There's like
Friends.
I'm actually right now on my Instagram, which is public. Much to my dismay, I had a conversation with myself this week because I was in the comments of an Instagram post and I was like, "Ooh, I want to just fucking give it to this person, like let them have it." But then I was like, "Oh, my shit's public though." And then they're going to like do some low blows where they call out like some shit on my public
See,
profile.
I run into that. Keep running that situation too. Instagram is really racist right now. Not digging it.
And look, I want to go on there and say something, but then they just get on my page and fuck with my shit, like leave shitty comments and stuff. So it's like, I was like, look, do I want to put my profile on private and then like say whatever the fuck I want to these assholes? Or do I want to keep it public and let some of the people, because I get likes and follows from people who are fans of the podcast. So I don't want them to find me on Instagram and not be able to see any of my stuff. Like I want them to have access to that. I feel like as, a host on this show, like, that's a thing they should be able to see.
Oh
I think
yeah,
I'm private right now just because I'm in job hunt mode. Once I'm out of job hunt mode, I will not be private
you're the
And
anymore.
you know what?
vinyl.
What I
You're the vinyl
decided,
guy on my Instagram. You're the vinyl
what
guy.
I, yeah,
We
Yes.
had a whole
I'm the guy
conversation
who
about
listens
Devo.
to records.
We had a whole
Yes,
conversation
we
about
sure
Devo.
did.
Yeah.
That's true.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
true. So, like I decided that I remembered that the reason I got off of all social media like 3 years ago before I came back to Instagram about 6 months ago was because I was being drawn into these toxic conversations too easily. It's too easy to get me into a back and forth that's not going to go anywhere, and all it's going to do is upset me and make my day shitty. And I was like, that's literally the reason I got off of social media. So the obvious choice here is to keep my profile public and shut the fuck up.
Right.
So that's what I'm going to do.
That is
So
my entire
as
philosophy regarding
tempting
social media.
as it is, I have to remember that's why I got off of social media. So if I'm going to engage in this small part of social media, I need to keep that in mind and just shut the fuck up. So that's what I'm going to do. Look, I've probably made some comments in the past. Go through my comments, look at them, and make fun of me because your boy got mad a few times. It's not a big deal. No more, man. Fuck that. I'm not engaging with that shit. I don't need that in my life. Fuck off.
Hell yeah.
So Tuck
And
_mugs is a wholesome little place on the internet where everybody has a great time talking about glassware. Yeah, that's it. That's my socials. Good job.
right on. And that is our episode on.
Thank God.
I know. Well, dude, if you would have shut up, we could have gotten done with it faster. But no,
I know. I'm the most self-aware person I know. You think I don't know this? You think I'm not witnessing this with you guys? I just can't stop it. I can't stop it.
He's mad.
You have self-awareness, just not self-control. Is that it?
Too much self-awareness, not enough self-control. Yes. It's a weird place to be, you guys.
Fix it.
I can't.
Fix it.
I try.
That is our episode on John Carter. That is all we have to say. So, for the Disenfranchised Podcast, I am your host, Stephen Foxworthy. For my co-host, Tucker, the absent Brett Wright, and the very present, very special Mr. Samuel Dumas. Until next time, for Barsoom.
Okay.
The end.
Awesome.
Sam?
Did you stop it? Stop it.
No,
dude.
Sam had
Stop
something
the
he wanted
recording.
to. He had a hot take that
Oh,
he
wait.
wanted to.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Oh no,
Yeah,
no,
it's
no,
okay.
no. Hold on.
Yep.
Hold on. This is not a hot take. I just wanted to bitch about the ending of the. Hold on.
It's
this
a
is not
stinger. Give us our moment of zen. Give us a
Yeah,
hot
this is not
take
a hot
and
take.
give us our type 5. Give us a type 5.
So in the book, at one point he ends up in a building that it's like fortified, and he accidentally gets in, but he finds out this building's job is to harvest light rays and turn it into oxygen on Mars, and it's the only building on the entire planet that does it. It's keeping the planet alive. So there's a general consensus is
That
to not
seems
attack that building.
inefficient.
So, in the books, the whole planet is dying, like it's completely just wiped
And
out.
irresponsible. Well, no,
So they're
okay, yeah.
so they're trying to keep the planet alive. And he talks to this old guy, and it turns out there's only one person on the entire planet who knows how to operate it, and it's him. They change out someone every 6 months or something. So, anyways, he escapes in that building, and then later on, at the end of the book, he's enjoying his life with his wife. And by the way, she has children by eggs. They have an egg together. It's just mentioned that they have an egg together. So I don't know how that works. Just keep this in mind. You don't have to. I do. It haunts me. The fact that she has eggs.
I feel like there's a pretty simple explanation for it.
As it occurs in nature.
I feel like you have the same. Obviously, his sex organ can populate an egg, fertilize an egg.
Right.
So even though this egg comes out, it's still his jism, if you will.
Yes.
That makes it so this egg will become something. What are we doing? Oh my god.
Yeah, the high concepts that this movie introduces. So
where have you taken us, Sammy?
He's chilling out with his wife and her egg, okay? And then it turns out...
Do they have to keep it warm? Like, what's the context here? Are they sitting on it?
Yeah, they keep in those little incubation chambers. You remember in the movie? Remember in the movie when he finds...
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. The part I don't want to think about. Yes, but I remember,
so
yes.
they keep them in incubation chambers like that.
That's for even, like, the red lady?
Yeah,
she's a red
that's what I'm saying.
And he's a white boy.
Yeah, the red ladies can lay eggs just like the green ladies can.
And then it's the same. They put it in like with the sunroof.
Yeah.
Greenhouse sort of thing.
Yeah.
To bake.
Yeah.
And then they don't have to sit on them. That's convenient. Like that's a good fix for that.
Yeah. Well, it takes about 5 years for it. It takes about 5 years to incubate. So
that kind of makes more sense in the context of what I read about the sequel was going to be like he was back on Earth for 10 years. And then he comes back and his infant is kidnapped. Like
Yeah.
So that kind of makes more sense in that context. So I actually appreciate you sort of bringing that up.
Yeah, good. I'm glad I did. Well, anyways, the planet starts to run out of oxygen because the guy who runs the oxygen plant got killed and the building's locked and they can't get in.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah.
So they resigned their fate and they live life like nobly, like they're not gonna die. All this noble bullshit, right? And everyone's dying and everyone's literally suffocating. Everyone's passing out. And then John Carter remembers that he knows how to turn on the oxygen machine, literally as everyone's just dead around him on the third final day. So he hops on a little scooter and he goes into the machine, turns on the oxygen machine, and he gets teleported back to Earth, where he wakes up inside of a cave and turns around and finds a mummified old woman. And above her are rows of skeletons hanging by a rope. And she's hanging on to one piece of rope. And she pulls it, and it makes this sound like rustling. And then he leaves. And that's the end of the book. That's my gripe. The book the ending is really stupid. Like what?
That's wild. Look, that
I can see why they cut that.
Look, that makes me think of one issue I had with this plot hole wise was that when
You're done, we wrapped. What are you doing?
Look, I know we've wrapped, but look, this is bothering me. So like when he touches the medallion, right, and he goes to Mars, he creates a copy of himself, right?
Right.
And his other self is still back on Earth or whatever. And suspending all disbelief that somehow his heart is still beating and somehow his body is preserved, even though the guy he killed is a skeleton. Like, okay, whatever. But when he comes back to Earth in the third act, what happens to his body on Mars? Does it work the same way? Like, I feel like there's a lot of stuff in this movie.
So in the movie,
talking about this after we've literally ended the podcast.
I think,
but this was a big thing, and I just never got to it.
Yeah, I think in the second book he wakes up in a tomb, but I haven't read the second book in a long time. Like he wakes up in a tomb on Mars.
It works the same way. Like the copy that he created works the same way as this body on Earth does. It just sits there, and as long as somebody doesn't destroy it, like he's good to roll back into it wherever it may be.
Correct. I think so.
Okay.
If I remember right.
Okay.
Also, in the book,
sorry, Steven. It's just it was.
So
It was
sorry.
just
Yeah.
it was a
I
big
mean,
thing for me.
it's an hour earlier here than it is there, so you
Oh,
guys do what you got to
Yeah.
do. But
I should go. Well,
yeah, we gotta go.
it's been real, everybody. I don't know how to hang up on
Thank you,
this.
Sammy. This has been my favorite thing that we've done in a while.